Venezuela hosts the third International Telecommunications Fair, FTS, with over 140 national and international companies in attendance. In Argentina, President Javier Milei acknowledged on Friday that he is negotiating a new loan with the U.S. Treasury Department to mitigate the financial crisis affecting the country. In Palestine, the death toll from the Israeli aggression has risen to 65,174, with 166,071 others injured since the conflict started on October 7, 2023. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sophie Fernandez from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela hosts the third International Telecommunications Fair, FTS, with over 140 national and international companies in attendance. The event is held at Caracas' Polytron Arena, where hundreds of companies demonstrate the country's technological advances within the framework of future strategic alliances. Venezuela has experienced a significant 7.13% growth in its telecommunication services and a significant progress in national connectivity. In Venezuela, aquaculturists held a meeting on the organization, distribution and export of Capa ficus seaweed, cultivated in the state of Nueva Esparta. Artisanal producers from different organizations in the sector participated in the meeting, alongside the business leaders. Capa ficus seaweed contains minerals that are beneficial to humans and are also used in products such as toothpaste and makeup, among others. These meetings are held within the framework of government plans for the country's producers with the aim of promoting the nation's development. Also in Venezuela, Prime Minister of Defense Vladimir Lopez offered details of the Sovereign Caribbean 200 exercise held on the island of La Horchilla in the insular territory Francisco de Miranda. The minister informed that the 72-hour land and naval air exercise is still underway, and so far it has been carried out according to plan. The activities have been carried out in popular, military and police fusion, which has allowed to increase the operational readiness of the National Bolivarian Armed Forces. Padrino reaffirmed that under the premise of drug trafficking, the U.S. administration has wanted to discredit and eliminate the democratic Venezuelan institutionality. In the face of this scenario of aggression of national sovereignty, the joint campaign maneuver Sovereign Caribbean 200 has demonstrated the effectiveness of these synergies in defense of the homeland. Minister of Defense of Venezuela Vladimir Padrino Lopez assured that the entire national territory is occupied by the Bolivarian Armed Forces for the defense of the country.
There is no state, no jurisdiction within the national territory that is not currently occupied by the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, conducting exercises and carrying out the task of defending, the task of containing the traffic of drugs through the national territory, the task of combating armed groups, the drug trafficking, and terrorist groups. Here the government has not given consent or permission to any armed group of any kind to remain in the country. That is a violation of our sovereignty, and that is why it is a state policy, from the highest level, to reject, to expel, or to neutralize. If necessary, any armed group operating in Venezuelan territory, anywhere in the country. The Bolivarian National Armed Forces have the constitutional mission, above all else, by our Constitution, to defend and guarantee our national independence.
Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez also emphasized that military exercises by the United States against Venezuela and the Caribbean are a threat against the country and the region.
And so we see that in this regard, the world is adrift, because what prevails here is not the international law or legislation. What prevails here is the use of force. And in the case at hand, regarding this threat by the United States against Venezuela, Latin America, and the Caribbean, they are using military means. It is a military threat. No other thing.
Now we move to Puerto Rico, where the Independence Party and the social organization Mothers Against War denounced this Friday that the U.S. government is remilitarizing the country for a possible intervention in Venezuela. Independent Senator Adrian Gonzalez asserted that Puerto Rico is a militarized territory of the United States, adding that it is a test that is being conducted could take place in South America. Similarly, on September 14th, Mothers Against War held a protest against the U.S. deployment, which was supported by the Independence Party and poets in March. These statements come in the context of a U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean Sea, while an elite marine unit began amphibious maneuvers on Puerto Rican soil. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Argentina's President Javier Milei acknowledged during an interview on Friday that he is negotiating a new loan with the U.S. Treasury Department to mitigate the financial crisis affecting the country. The Central Bank of Argentina intervened in the official exchange market after disbursing $680 million on Friday and another $432 million in the previous 2 days, to keep the dollar exchange rate within the range agreed upon with the International Monetary Fund. This agreement, worth $20 billion, requires the organization to prevent the currency from exceeding the upper limit. The crisis is worsening, with the country at risk at 1,515 basis points, an increase of 4.3% since August 26, 2024, reflecting the difficulties in financing. Also in Argentina, the government was criminally charged for failure to fulfill its duties as a public servant. After Congress rejected the veto on the disability emergency law, it is now up to President Javier Milei to enforce the law and carry out its implementation. Esteban Paulón, representative of the We Do for Our Country, and Monica Fein, representative of the Socialist Party, filed a complaint against President Javier Milei and other authorities for breach of public duty. Judge Sebastián Casanello accepted the complaint and stated that he will investigate the president for delaying implementation. Cornered, the enraged government accused the deputies of being irresponsible for undermining fiscal balance. In Ecuador, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, CONAIE, denounced the freezing of its leaders and organization bank accounts in the context of the national strike called for the repeal of Decree 126. This decree eliminated the diesel subsidy and raised its price by 56%. According to the official statement, the banks justified the measure as a response to state orders, which CONAIE interprets as an act of intimidation and criminalization of social protest. The organization, in a statement issued after the Extraordinary Assembly, announced an immediate and indefinite national strike. The mobilization responds to the economic impact of the diesel rise in prices, making transportation, production, and food more expensive. On his last end, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa extended the state of emergency and imposed a curfew in 5 provinces, ahead of new protests in the making against his elimination of the diesel subsidy. The decision was denounced by various social movements, such as the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities, which accused the government of defending the interests of the country's elites and the International Monetary Fund and violating the right to a decent life. The move suspends freedom of assembly, restricts movement for 60 days, and authorizes the police to prevent and suspend meetings in public spaces, where threats to security are identified. In addition, the executive declared a curfew in 5 provinces with the aim of containing road blockades and demonstrations. In other news, the Mexican government has warned that at least 198 Mexicans have been detained at the Alligator Alcatraz detention center in the United States, which was ordered to close by a federal judge. Mexican Foreign Minister Juan Ramón de la Fuente reported that consultants are conducting interviews with Mexican migrants who are detained in the United States. He explained that Alligator Alcatraz is a short-term detention center, so there's a daily movement of inmates. He also noted that during the last day of interviews at the detention center, complaints of mistreatment have been received. In Turkey, forest fires threaten residential areas in the south and west of the territory. According to the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, fires were reported in the regions of Aydin, Muğla, and Antalya, provinces known for their dense forests and popular tourist destinations. For its part, the governor's office reported that several fires have been brought under control, while efforts to contain the remaining flames continue. They also deploy air support, including helicopters and firefighting aircraft, along with hundreds of firefighters in the ground. In Antalya, residents were evacuated after flames spread to their homes.
Donde miles de soldados murieron durante la Primera Guerra Mundial, enfrentó a varios incendios importantes en las últimas semanas. El 11 de agosto, más de 2.000 personas tuvieron que ser evacuadas en esta provincia turca debido a un incendio forestal. 14 personas fallecieron combatiendo.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break coming, don't go away. Welcome back. The Palestinian death toll has risen to 65,174, with 166,071 others injured, since Israeli aggressions towards Gaza erupted on October 7, 2023, according to Gaza's health authorities. According to reports from the Ministry of Health in the enclave, in the last 24 hours, hospitals received 33 bodies, including 1 recovered from the rubble, and 146 injured. Systematic starvation claimed many lives in the Strip, totaling 440 people, including 147 minors. The international community condemned the use of hunger as a weapon of war and warned of a humanitarian catastrophe with irreversible consequences for an entire generation. Meanwhile, 9 Palestinian hostages were released Friday from Israeli army prisons and arrived in the city of Deir al-Balah with the help of the Red Cross. According to local health and security sources, the 9 Palestinians crossed into Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing and were immediately transported to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah. The release of the hostage created a climate of relief and celebration among their loved ones and their communities of origin. After long months of confinement, they will undergo detailed medical exams to address possible health issues and ensure the well-being of the former kidnapped victims. In other news, Iran condemned the reinstatement of the United Nations sanctions and reiterated the peaceful nature of its nuclear program. Iran's foreign ministry opposes UN sanctions backed by the European Union. It claims the Cairo deal with the International Atomic Energy Agency, seen as a diplomatic breakthrough, is being ignored. The country emphasized that the measure comes at a time where its peaceful nuclear facilities are under Israeli attack. On September 9th, Iran announced a new understanding with the International Atomic Energy Agency that defines mechanisms for resuming inspections and cooperation, guaranteeing its sovereign rights. The Supreme National Security Council warned that any hostile action will lead to the suspension of the agreement. Additionally, Russia and China announced that they will not recognize Western countries' attempts to reimpose United Nations sanctions on Iran and promise to continue business as usual. Vasily Nevenstya, Russia's United Nations Security Council representative, denounced the reimposition of sanctions against Iran as illegitimate and coercive. China's United Nations Security Council ambassador Fu Kong called for sanctions against Iran to be suspended, saying the Arab nation's efforts must be recognized. He stressed that reimposing sanctions against Iran undermines efforts to find a solution and said the U.S. must pave the way for negotiations. In the Dominican Republic, the 20th edition of the International Contemporary Dance Festival was inaugurated. The festival, which will run until October 5th, features more than 15 companies from various countries, including Spain, the United States, and Colombia. The event, which promises to be a space for building cultural bridges through dance, will feature performances such as The Last Wedding, a work by Rafael Morla, and 2 choreographies by the National Dance Company of Costa Rica. It would also include varied programs of workshops, conferences, and video dance screenings. In Mexico, the International Anthropology and History Book Fair began, under the slogan Rights and Cultural Diversity. In its 36th edition, the fair will feature over 100 exhibitors and 150 stands, offering a wide selection of titles and activities such as forum, exhibitions, tributes, film screenings, and musical performances. The artistic program, which will run until September 28th, will include performances of the band Mono Blanco and other musicians, as well as a forum dedicated to the bicentennial of historian Joaquín García y Cabal Celta. In addition, notable books will be presented, and there will be temporary exhibitions on Olmec culture and the cultural diversity of the Ivory Coast. And we move to China, where the Chinese city of Weifan will celebrate its 2025 International Kite Festival with over 20 activities between September and October. The event, entitled Flying Dreams and Embracing Peace, will include the 2nd World Indoor Kite Championship and the 6th National Traditional Kite Making Contest. During the launch of the festival, local authorities highlighted the importance of integrating kite culture with industry, tourism, and commerce, transforming this cultural symbol into an economic driver of the region. In addition, sports and cultural activities such as a marathon and a harvest festival will be held during the event. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.